I've been running a test on aging and injury settings in OOTP 24, and I just got done with my last of 3 150-year sim runs, and I was very excited to see the results and check for any sort of interesting statistical outliers. And I was really excited to see that I have a guy, Jose Marchand, who seems to be the new GOAT. He managed to set a new hits record, almost 6,000 hits, career total bases. A lot of them are singles, but that's fine. He also has double the stolen bases of Rickey Henderson and just barely more caught stealings. So he's the best runner of all time, the best base stealer, and apparently the best hitter of all time. And so I was really excited to see the career hits leaderboard, Jose Marchand. What got me interested was whenever I zoomed in on this year. So he started playing in the majors in 2050 and didn't stop until 2159. Yeah, a 100-year career. I mean, I don't know how this worked. He must have been on the Brian Johnson longevity train. Maybe he has a portrait in his attic that is not as nice as this face gen image here, which I gotta say, for being 150 years old in this photo, he's looking really good. There's a really interesting bug that I've never seen in OOTP before, so I had to dive into it. And what I noticed here, his age of retirement shows as 20. He doesn't have a date of birth, but he played from 2050 till 2159 in the majors. But funny enough, he actually started playing in 2024 in this. In past versions of OOTP, there was a bug where player IDs would either get overwritten or recycled. I can't remember the detail exactly, but you would have player histories where someone would show as drafted and they'd retire without it showing as retired, and then they'd get drafted again. So you'd have these weird histories like that. This is not that. If you go to his history, you see him signing in 2023, earlier this year, which actually happened, I should mention. He's a real player in the Dominican Summer League. I couldn't find any break in the history. It stops in 2099 here, but if you look at his awards, it is the same Jose Marchand all the way down. How does this happen? I think at some point his date of birth had to get deleted, and I think that somehow took him out of the whole aging process, and he managed to get better over time. I turned off most of the reports to speed up the sim, but you can get the basics. He was a 20 grade hitter when he first started at 17. He got up to 40 grade, 35 power and 50 I, but that was at the age of 26, 27. I mean, that's just a minor leaguer. He's an organizational player at that point. And if you look at his history, he hadn't broken into the majors. Now, what's interesting is his eye kept going up because generally as players age, their eye does improve. They get better at discerning balls and strikes. It's considered an old player skill that way. But he managed to stay with 75 eye up to the age of 61 years old. Those are pretty good numbers there. And if you look, he doesn't drop below 50 I until 2128. So until he was in his age 123, something like that, he won a gold glove at the very brightly age of 152. I mean, we're looking at some very biblical Methuselah-like numbers here. He had a good year in Baltimore here at 63, where he hit 27 home runs somehow, stole 12 bases, but he hit 237, put up 5 WAR, and he just kind of, hangs out in the 3 to 4 win range, occasionally dropping down, but, even as he surpassed his Social Security age, he was still a very decent major leaguer. I will say he managed to get 141 WAR, which is more than Willie Mays. Now, granted, he did need about 8 times as long to get there, but, he's an accumulator. And finished his career under the Mendoza line at 199. The best base stealer of all time. His ratings at retirement show why he managed to stick around. So even in his hundreds, 70 running speed, 80 stealing bases, 80 base running. So he was just the best base runner of all time. He also had the best fielding of all time. Literally 80 grade everything somehow, except outfield range, only 70. So, a bit of a scrub in center. But he managed to put up, out of that 144 WAR, ballparking 10 runs per win, 440 runs at shortstop, 700 in center field, a very spooky 666 base running runs, So between the two, you're looking at 1,800 runs above replacement in that from fielding and base running. If you look at it, assume that should be about 180 WAR. He ends up at 140, which tells me across his, 100 and some odd year career, he was actually just slightly below replacement level as a hitter through most of it, which makes sense when your career batting average is 199. But he managed to accumulate nearly 6,000 hits out of 30,000 at bats. Pete Rose, I think, has the record around in the 14,000. So if he had lived a little cleaner, he could have kept up with Jose Marchand. And then the last interesting thing of note on here is in all that time, he managed to play for 28 of the 30 major league teams, only missing out on the Diamondbacks and the Nationals. So he's an immaculate grid superstar. He makes Edwin Jackson look like Moonlight Graham. This is without a doubt my favorite bug I found in OOTP in many years, more than I can remember. If you were playing in a 150 odd year sim like this, you may not catch it. Like I said, I've run multiple of these and haven't run into it before, but I think this would be about the worst case scenario, is finding this guy after he already retires. If you were playing the sim, you'd probably be able to force him into retirement if you wanted to keep up the realism, or if not, you could see what happens. This is about the best case kind of bug for someone who likes to sim and do a Ken Burns style documentary about the past of their league. This is a fan fiction writer's delight. Since this was the weirdest bug and probably the weirdest thing I've seen in OOTP in at least a decade, I felt like I just had to share about this and do an entire video just on this. If you're interested in the results of the non-buggy players in the aging and injury simulations, keep an eye out and subscribe. I'll be posting a video about that here in the next few days, most likely. So until then, enjoy your saves and happy simming.